The uproar was forcefully suppressed by Arthur Sterling at a very high price. I was taken back to the Sterling estate. Audrey Hayes was crying, and Martha Sterling was also crying. Robert Sterling, however, stood to the side, staring at me, lost in thought. I looked up at him. There was a moment of eye contact, but he quickly withdrew his gaze. Arthur Sterling's expression was haughty. Eleanor Vance, you know the Sterling family code. Those who make mistakes must make oneself and seek forgiveness. Here we go again. This time, what mistake did I make? My husband cheated on me and was caught red-handed by me. What mistake did I possibly make? Never had I felt as calm as I did at this moment. My back straight, my gaze meeting Arthur Sterling's high and mighty eyes, I resisted him calmly and firmly. I will not. Instantly, the crying in the living room stopped. Martha Sterling, who was usually timid, stared at me blankly and couldn't help but speak up. Eleanor, just apologize quickly. When father gets angry, there are serious consequences. Silence. Before she could finish, Arthur Sterling spoke coldly, his hawk-like eyes glaring at me. Eleanor Vance, do you know what you are saying? I repeated calmly. I said, I will not. Audacious. Suddenly, a white porcelain vase flew towards me. I couldn't dodge in time, and just as it was about to hit my forehead, someone suddenly blocked me. The vase shattered into pieces, hitting the floor with a crash. Robert. I heard Martha Sterling's gasp and realized that the person who had blocked me was Robert Sterling. He dropped to his knees. This was the first time he had ever knelt voluntarily since we had known each other, voluntarily admitting his mistakes. It was his foolish fantasy, he had been led astray. He shouldn't have failed to clarify his relationship with Audrey after marrying me. I heard him say, Dad, from beginning to end, it was all my fault. It has nothing to do with Eleanor. The sun must be rising in the west. I looked down at him expressionlessly. Robert Sterling, this is the first time I felt you acted like a man. His back stiffened. Arthur Sterling grew angrier the more he listened and grabbed a wooden chair to throw at him. The area became a mess, mixed with Audrey Hayes' crying and Martha Sterling's gasps. Later, the Hayes estate also arrived. The whole scene became even more chaotic. I took the opportunity to go back to my room and gather my belongings. My ID and documents, bank cards, a few clothes I had bought with my own money. In the years I was married to Robert Sterling, I hadn't accepted any financial gifts from the Sterling estate. The jewelry on the dressing table didn't belong to me either. I took one last look at this room, the prison that had held me for over 20 years, and officially left. After stepping out, I realized that in the vast city of Havenwood, there was nowhere for me to belong. My stomach started aching faintly again. I swallowed the painkillers and went alone to New Haven Harbor. The evening breeze was gentle. I curled up in a corner of the pier, crying silently. Maria, please, can you come take me away quickly? Living here is so tiring. Tired from crying, I actually fell asleep. When I woke up, Robert Sterling was standing in front of me. His clothes were messy, and he had a dark bruise on his forehead, clearly from being hit with a stick. I knew you'd be here. You always came here when you were unhappy before. A fawning smile was on his face. I couldn't help but frown. I got up to leave, but he grabbed my wrist. He asked me, why? Was he asking why I left the Sterling estate? Or was he asking why I was ruthless and exposing everything? But I didn't want to ask him anymore. He was completely unimportant. I pulled my suitcase and walked quickly ahead, but he kept chasing after me relentlessly. Eleanor Vance, don't you have a heart? With all our history, how can you treat me so heartlessly? It was precisely because of all our history. I had already given him enough consideration. My steps quickened until he couldn't keep up. Only then did I hear him shout in despair. Eleanor Vance, why do you always hide yourself? My steps faltered. My heart trembled. You weren't always just obedient. You know how to resist. You are alive, not like a lifeless puppet. It's not true that if I told you to jump off a building, you would just jump. You can say no. You don't like high heels, you don't like jewelry, you don't like anything about the Sterling estate. Why did you keep pretending you liked it all so much? Why did you pretend like that to deceive me? Was that fun, Eleanor Vance? Robert Sterling had seen through it all. If these questions had been asked in the past, I would have been overjoyed. But I don't know when everything had changed. I didn't linger, pulling my suitcase and walking forward again. Finally, I heard Robert Sterling's voice again. He asked, Eleanor Vance, will you never like me again? I rented an old walk-up apartment building with cheap rent and found a part-time office job as a clerk. For the first time in so many years, I was truly living for myself. The doctor also kept urging me to accept treatment. He said that if I accepted treatment, a miracle might happen, and there might be a different future. Future. It was truly a distant word. I didn't want to ignore the anticipation in the doctor's eyes, so I started my first round of treatment. The process was painful, but thankfully everything went smoothly. The doctor was the first person who wanted me to live. Robert Sterling found out where I was staying from somewhere. He came knocking constantly, every few days, but I always turned him away. At the same time, I realized I had overlooked something extremely important. I hired a lawyer to draft divorce papers. I didn't want anything, I just wanted a divorce. This marriage, which began because Audrey Hayes left, had to formally end after her return. I splurged for once and took a taxi up to Hillside Estates. When I arrived at the Hayes estate, as luck would have it, they were having lunch. Arthur Sterling snorted coldly. "Eleanor Vance, you dare to come back." I ignored him and walked straight to Robert Sterling, handing him the divorce papers in front of everyone. Silence fell over the entire room. His eyes were surprised, and he didn't take the papers. I placed the divorce papers on the dining table and said coldly, "Mr. Robert Sterling, you know my address. Sign it and courier it to me directly. Don't harass me again, or I will call the police." Having said that, I turned and left without looking back at anyone. "Eleanor Vance." Arthur Sterling started slamming the table furiously again. "Since when does the maid's daughter get to hand divorce papers to our Sterling estate? What dignity do you have?" My steps halted. I turned around calmly with a smile. "At least the maid's daughter doesn't cheat." I nodded towards Robert Sterling, who had been silent. "Wouldn't you agree, Robert Sterling?" Arthur Sterling repeated his old trick and threw a dish and silverware at me. This time, I easily dodged it and left the Hayes estate without looking back. The next day, major media news outlets started publishing rumors about Robert Sterling and Audrey Hayes. Photos of them on the street, gazing at each other affectionately. I didn't have much time to pay attention to these things. I was facing my second round of treatment. The doctor told me this time would be very, very painful, and I had to have enough confidence to get through it. Before starting, I asked him, "When I open my eyes, will it be a bright, sunny day?" Approaching the holidays, Havenwood had been raining constantly. The doctor held my hand, giving me enough confidence. "As long as you wake up, it will definitely be a bright, sunny day." This time, I slept for a very long time. I dreamt of Maria when she was still alive, bringing me to the Sterling estate. The Sterling estate's yard was so big. I discovered a butterfly fluttering around. While chasing it, I accidentally bumped into a little boy. Maria panicked and picked him up, telling me to call him Robert and apologize. I twisted the corner of my clothes awkwardly. Robert, it was a truly embarrassing title. In my eyes, that title only appeared on television. Maria seemed afraid of being punished. Seeing I didn't apologize, she kept apologizing frantically for me. That was the first time I witnessed the family code of the influential Sterlings in Havenwood. It was so strict, it felt like something from an older era. But a small hand suddenly appeared in front of me. He reached out to me and said in a prematurely mature voice, "Don't apologize, we're just kids." "Eleanor, my name is Robert Sterling. What's yours?" "Eleanor Vance." "Eleanor Vance, wake up." Someone was calling me. I struggled several times before finally opening my tired eyes. The doctor's red-rimmed eyes came into view. "You're finally awake. If you hadn't," he dramatically patted his chest, "I would have been scared to death." I stayed in the hospital for a long time. By the time I was discharged, it was already New Year's Eve. The streets were festively decorated, and I also bought 2 strings of festive decorations at the market and hung them by my door. The news said there would be fireworks at New Haven Harbor at midnight tonight, and it would be broadcast live on television. As the fireworks rose, the new year finally arrived. I had lived for another year, and the first New Year's message I received was from the doctor. "Eleanor, I didn't lie to you. This year, New Year's Eve and all the holidays in Havenwood are bright and sunny. Wishing you happiness in the new year." I simply replied, "Happy New Year." Just after I replied, there was a sudden knock on the door. I thought it was one of the neighbors and opened the door without hesitation. Standing there was none other than Robert Sterling. He had been drinking. Like he was crazy, he cornered me against the wall and kissed my lips fiercely. "Eleanor Vance, aren't you jealous?" I pushed him away with all my strength, and slapped him hard. "Get out." Even though I had just been discharged and didn't have much strength in my body, I still pushed him away. "Robert Sterling, get out. I don't want to see you at all." Every time I saw him, I was reminded of everything I had experienced at the Sterling estate in the past. Robert Sterling didn't resist. "Eleanor, I've truly realized I was wrong. The gossip news before, I intentionally had the paparazzi take those photos. I thought you would be jealous, would be envious, and would come back to me. But, Eleanor, you didn't. Why don't you like me anymore?" Why would I like him? I couldn't help but laugh coldly. When I looked up, I was surprised to see that Robert Sterling was actually crying for me. As much as I had longed for him to look at me before, now I just wanted him to get lost quickly. Robert Sterling's face was full of hurt. "Eleanor, do you know? When I was in school, I liked you first." My hands froze. "You were gentle and considerate, like she cared for me like an older sister. I even felt a flutter of excitement just meeting your gaze. But later, Audrey told me that liking the maid's daughter would be a completely disgraceful thing if anyone found out. When I was young, I actually chose to believe her so easily. It wasn't until recently, when I saw a different side of you, that I realized the person I've always loved in my heart, from the very beginning, was you." His expression was sincere, his eyes soft like a clear spring. I couldn't stand it anymore and rushed into the bathroom, vomiting. Stripped of the filter, Robert Sterling made me feel nauseous every moment. I vomited until I was completely exhausted. When I turned around, Robert Sterling was still behind me. I couldn't help but frown, but then I saw Audrey Hayes had appeared in front of me at some point. There were dark circles under her eyes, and her hair was messy. The moment our eyes met, she suddenly turned vicious and grabbed my hair. "Eleanor Vance, you should just die." There was a moment when I wanted to die, but now I had hope for life. There were still things I wanted to do. I wanted to travel, to be myself, to live a more exciting life. Every single thought told me not to die. Robert Sterling reached out to stop her, but Audrey Hayes, completely out of control, pushed him towards the door. The shoe rack instantly collapsed. The narrow layout of the old walk-up apartment building acted like a clear divide, effectively blocking Robert Sterling at the doorway. Audrey Hayes reached out and closed the door. "You dead bitch, this is all because of you." Before the words were finished, she quickly grabbed my head and slammed it hard against the wall. My brain buzzed for a brief moment. Once wasn't enough. Audrey Hayes, using the momentum, pushed me to hit the wall again. Instantly, the world spun. Warm liquid dripped from my forehead, from my nose. I fell to the ground weakly. The stomach pain, which hadn't flared up in a long time, almost erupted at this moment. The pain made me curl up more and more. "Audrey Hayes, let go." I heard Robert Sterling's shout of reprimand. Audrey Hayes laughed hysterically, dragging me to the front of the living room. Pointing at the news playing on the television, she accused me bitterly. "It's all because of you. You spread all the information. You ruined my reputation. How can I show my face now?" I struggled to get up. The first breaking news of the new year was about Audrey Hayes' miserable experiences abroad. Domestic violence, infidelity, abortion. The announcer, in a crisp, precise tone, revealed the gossip amidst the New Year's cheer. It wasn't me. I covered my nose, which was still bleeding, my strength nearly depleted. I tried to explain to convince her, but it only fueled her greater anger. She grabbed my throat and then, viciously slapped me across the face. The familiar buzzing in my brain returned. Along with it was the sweetness in my throat. I couldn't hold back anymore and vomited a pool of blood. Only then did Audrey Hayes seem to snap back to reality a little. "Eleanor Vance, stop playing dumb. Is that fake blood?" Cold sweat spread with the stomach pain, reaching my whole body. The sweetness in my throat kept rising. I collapsed weakly onto the ground. In the final moment before losing consciousness, I heard Robert Sterling's gasp. "Eleanor." This time, I dreamt of Maria again. She was sitting not far away, smiling and waving at me, calling me to come over. Just as I was about to step forward, I suddenly heard someone calling my name. Looking around, I couldn't see anyone else besides Maria. Maria was still waving gently. Suddenly, someone else appeared beside her. I rubbed my eyes and looked closely. It was Dad, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. He was also waving for me to come. I broke into a run. After only a few steps, I heard someone calling me from behind again. "Eleanor. Eleanor Vance, you can't sleep. I'm Dr. Ethan Miller. You can call me Ethan, or you can call me Ethan Miller." "Ethan, who are you?" "Dr. Ethan Miller, who is that?" I struggled to open my eyes. The moment they opened, the doctor's slightly red eyes made my heart tremble. "Doctor." My voice was hoarse. I said seriously, "Why are you crying? Eleanor Vance is still alive." The doctor cried even harder. The news of my illness spread like wildfire. Martha Sterling came to see me, crying. "Child, why didn't you tell Maria you were sick? Maria always loved you like her own daughter." How heartbroken this makes Maria. I subtly withdrew my hand from her tight grip. "Thank you, Martha, but I only have one Maria, and she is already gone." Martha Sterling's tears stopped instantly. The doctor said I had a brush with death and needed a very long period of recovery. Robert Sterling came to see me a few times. He didn't say anything, just kept staring at me with his head down. He was looking at me so much that I finally couldn't help but speak. "Robert Sterling, sign the divorce papers. I don't want to be your wife before I die. Can you please let me just be Eleanor Vance, not Eleanor Sterling?" Before the words were out, Robert Sterling covered his face in agony and began to sob uncontrollably. His choked apologies came through. "Eleanor, I've never felt like such a failure. After knowing each other for so many years, I never understood you for a single moment. The moment I found out you were sick, I couldn't even think of what your dream was, what I could do for you." The next day, I received the signed divorce papers. Robert Sterling instructed his lawyer to transfer all his assets to me, an amount so large it astonished me. At the same time, the gossip monger who had revealed Audrey Hayes' marriage details abroad also exposed that Robert Sterling had cheated on me with Audrey Hayes during our marriage. It caused a huge stir. Arthur Sterling spent a fortune trying to suppress it, but couldn't. The city's gossip revolved around this incident, and the stock prices of both Sterling and Hayes enterprises plummeted. I heard Audrey Hayes became depressed and attempted suicide several times. Arthur Sterling sent Robert out of town overnight to lie low. Everyone else was caught in the storm of public opinion, but I was enjoying my newfound freedom. Treatment went smoothly. I cut off all my hair and officially became bald. The doctor stayed by my side, telling me stories about his studies abroad. I survived the spring. Doctor, whether your prediction is accurate depends on this summer. The doctor gave a wry laugh. My predictions are never accurate. In April, the doctor finally agreed to discharge me. It was raining on the day I was discharged from the hospital. I walked alone with my umbrella to New Haven Harbor. When I was little, Maria loved bringing me here. Looking at the sea seemed to make many worries disappear. The misty rain was so thick, I couldn't even see the downtown piers on the other side clearly. A jacket was suddenly draped over my shoulders. The doctor's voice came from behind me. Ms. Vance, even though you've been discharged, you still need to take good care of yourself. The fine rain fell softly, some of it landing on the doctor, on his wire-rimmed glasses. The lenses fogged up. Oh, you don't have to work tomorrow? I looked surprised. The doctor feigned hesitation. Can't a doctor take a day off tomorrow? I laughed. The atmosphere became quiet for a moment. After a long pause, I said, Doctor, I want to go see the world. If I'm still alive this summer, I'll come back to Havenwood. The doctor was also looking at me. His expression was strange. It was clearly filled with sadness, yet he was trying hard to maintain a smile. I decided to try and make him laugh.